shooting and killing 3 University of Virginia football players.
We are all right in Joplin for right now, but a wintry mix is on the way. We're going to break it down coming up.
And Dolly Parton nabs a big honor and a hefty check to go with it.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The 4 states braces for its first blast of wintry weather. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, MoDOT says it will have crews out ahead of today's wintry mix, but are warning drivers to be aware of potential slick spots. Let's go straight to Chris Warner for a first look at what you can expect.
Yeah, one of the things you can expect is it to continue to remain cold as we are still well below our normal high, but thankfully nowhere near record lows yet because our highs are close to what our lows should be. But that wintry mix is a distinct possibility. In fact, some of us in southeast Kansas starting to get in on a little bit of it. Not all of this is reaching the ground yet, but as we go through the rest of the evening, that will change. We also have this winter weather advisory, so it's broken down. These 2 northern counties are until 6 o'clock, and then here we got until 10 o'clock. So that's, by the way, until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then until 10 o'clock tonight. The vast majority of our area, though, as you can see, is clear of any winter weather advisories because the one plus side is we're not expecting major accumulation out of this. We're talking a dusting at best on grassy surfaces, but as MoDOT mentioned, as Tanya mentioned, slick roads are still going to be a distinct possibility. Where temperatures right now are actually not bad, and they're a little bit on the warm side. We got the 40s in southeast Kansas, a few 30s in southwest Missouri, and a few additional 40s. However, despite the warm surface temperatures, as we discussed this morning, it's the temperatures aloft that are going to be on the cold side. So we'll have snow that will fall and start to melt, but not all of it will, and therefore that's where we get the wintry mix. Wind chills also in the 30s across the area. As we go through the rest of the day, our high of 44 is just around the corner, and then that wintry mix will start to build in this evening. We'll talk more about the wintry mix, take a look at the long-range forecast here in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks. A lot to talk about. Thanks, Chris. Well, police in Charlottesville, Virginia, make an arrest in last night's fatal shooting on the University of Virginia campus last night. They say he was a former football player who attacked a bus of students who were returning from an off-campus trip. Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. is accused of killing 3 people and wounding 2 others last night at the University of Virginia. Now, 3 of the victims did not survive. All 3 were current members of the UVA football team. University officials say Jones is a student who played on the team in 2018, his freshman year. The campus police post described him as armed and dangerous. Congress returns to session for the first time in 5 weeks, and newly elected members arrive to begin orientation. But the balance of power in the House remains to be determined as votes are still being counted in some of the closest House races. Meanwhile, Democrats have retained control of the Senate, but some Republicans in the upper chamber are calling on Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to hold off on elections to see who will lead the Senate GOP until after the runoff in Georgia concludes. A new retail store opened its doors in Pittsburgh over the weekend and presents a local organization with a grand check for its grand opening. Marshall's replaces the former Goodies location next to Home Depot at 2905 North Broadway. Along with the ribbon cutting, store representatives donated a check for $10,000 to the Safe House Crisis Center, domestic and sexual violence shelter in the area. Well, today is World Diabetes Awareness Day, and there are 2 types of diabetes. Type 1 is a condition you're born with. Type 2 diabetes develops over time and is often lifestyle related. While there is no cure for type 1 diabetes, type 2 can be prevented and treated. Susan Pittman, a program coordinator for Diabetes Education Clinic at Freeman, says in southwest Missouri, the number of diabetes cases is 6% higher than the rest of the state. She says type 2 diabetes can be prevented and possibly treated by making simple, healthier life choices. Cutting down on carbohydrates is one way to help, but exercise goes a long way as well.
When we're exercising, we're burning more fuel. When we use our muscles, they use a lot of glucose. And so the body just becomes more efficient at the regulation of blood sugar when we exercise.
Pittman says sometimes people do not realize they have diabetes and may live with it for years before they are diagnosed. She encourages folks to check in with your doctor, especially if you have a family history of diabetes. Well, it's still early in the flu season, but about half of the U.S. reports high or very high respiratory illness activity. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says influenza is contributing a significant proportion of those illnesses, and the number of people sick with the flu nearly doubled in the last week of October and then jumped again in the first week of November. Well, RSV season is here and it's on the rise in the 4 states. KOAM's Carrie Worthen met with a local mother and her son who spent nearly 2 weeks in the hospital with the condition.
The baby's getting admitted. He's like really sick. We don't know what's going to happen right at this moment because he was fighting for his life.
3-month-old Grayson contracted RSV and was admitted to Mercy Hospital where he spent 10 days. According to the CDC, RSV is a common respiratory virus that usually causes mild cold-like symptoms. Most people recover in a week or 2, but RSV can be serious, especially for infants and older adults.
It was that bad that they took him straight in, hooked him up on oxygen and everything, and it was really scary. They heard him put IVs in, get fluids going because he's like throwing up nonstop.
According to the Missouri Department of Health, each year in the United States, RSV leads on average to approximately 2.1 million outpatient visits and 58,000 hospitalizations.
So it's like, okay, well, if you see their chest and if they're breathing so hard and stuff, please take them to Mercy. Like, take them to the hospital because I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
According to the Oklahoma State Department of Health, people get RSV from an infected person that does not wash their hands or use an alcohol-based hand gel with at least 60% alcohol after coughing or sneezing into them. In Commerce, Carrie Worthen, KOAM News.
Find out more about RSV, you can visit our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, Jeff Bezos awards $100 million to country star and philanthropist Dolly Parton. And later we're making ooey gooey pecan squares in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Country star and philanthropist Dolly Parton nabs a big honor. CBS News correspondent Wendy Gillette has more.
Stage, Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton is on a roll this month.
Well, did you say $100 million?
Amazon founder Jeff Bezos named her the winner of the 2022 Courage and Civility Award, which grants that very handsome sum of $100 million. The country singer was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in early November.
Jolene, Jolene, Jolene.
Her latest payout doesn't go to her, but to charity she deems worthy.
And I know that I've always said I try to put my money where my heart is. And I think you do the same thing. I will do my best to do good things with this money.
Parton is a well-known philanthropist, including donating $1 million to Vanderbilt University to help develop Moderna's COVID vaccine during the pandemic, and efforts to support children's literacy. Her Imagination Library program has gifted nearly 200 million books to children since 1995. And earlier this year, her Dollywood Parks and Resorts announced it will pay 100% of all tuition costs, fees, and books for employees. As for Bezos, he has pledged to give away most of his fortune during his lifetime. Wendy Gillette, CBS News.
Parton also helped raise millions for victims of the 2016 Great Smoky Mountain wildfires. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Whether you call these pecans or pecans, the dessert we're making today is something that everyone can agree on.
But first, something everyone may not want to agree on is a wintry mix. We'll break it all down coming up. We got another chilly day for us across the 4 states as we watch for a wintry mix to begin building in. Now, some of it's showing up on the Skywatch Storm Tracker in southeast Kansas already. Not all of this is falling all the way to the ground just yet, but that'll change as the evening progresses because we'll get a little bit colder and a little more of this moisture working in here, and then we'll see a little bit more of this actually begin to reach the ground. And here's the thing about the wintry mix is even though it's warm at the surface, the cold air way up in the sky is well below freezing. And so what we're getting is we're getting snow in the clouds that's falling, and as it gets closer to the ground where it's warmer, it begins to melt, but not all of it is melting, and therefore a wintry mix. We do have a winter weather advisory until 6 a.m. tomorrow here and until 10 o'clock tomorrow there. But as you see, the majority of our area is clear because we're really only expecting about a dusting out of all of this, and it'll be mostly on the grassy surfaces. The biggest impact it'll have is some of the roads could have some slick spots as we head through the evening, overnight, and into tomorrow morning. So here we are at 2 o'clock. And you can see we start to get the rain mixing in, and this is where I was talking about earlier about the wintry mix possibility. So the future track says it's warm at the ground level, so this is rain, but we could see some snow mixed in simply because it's so cold aloft. As we go through the evening, this rain and everything starts to sock in. As temperatures drop, the future track is able to make the determination that we're moving into more of a snow and wintry mix situation as the temperatures go down. The good news is, again, we're not talking about a major snowstorm or anything like that. Our first little snow of the season isn't going to be that much. Right now in Joplin, 39 degrees, feels like 34 with a south wind at 7 miles an hour. Temperatures across the region aren't too bad. They're well below where they should be, but they could be colder. 41 Yates Center, Chanute, Neodesha, Iola, 43 Fort Scott, 41 in Neosho, and 40 in Monette. But with that, we just about lost this little clicker. With that light breeze, though, it does make it feel colder. 35 in Yates Center, feels like 32 in Iola, 34 in Pittsburgh, feels like 31 in Mount Vernon right now. And so as we go through the day, we're still looking at a high of right around 44 degrees, and then we'll see the wintry mix begin to overspread the area as we head into the evening hours. Now, some of you may initially only see the light showers, but as the night goes on, a wintry mix is likely. And as the system begins to exit, we'll get a brief break overnight and then maybe some snow flurries early tomorrow morning as we drop back down to a low of 34 degrees. So a wider view on this future track, there are actual winter storm warnings out in west central Oklahoma because they're expecting upwards of maybe 4 to 6 inches of snow. The good news is we're not going to experience that much snow here. And a reminder on the future track, this is its interpretation of where snow could fall. It's not talking about a blizzard. It's showing where the snow could fall as we head into the overnight hours. Early Tuesday morning, as you can see, the system's starting to wrap around and move on out of here, and it'll be completely gone, and we'll actually warm up again tomorrow into the lower 40s. 42 as a matter of fact for the high. We stay below average as we continue through the week. Look at Wednesday, only 35. Another wintry mix possible by Saturday, a high of 40, and then Sunday, take a look at that, 48. I know that's not warm, but that's warmer. Overnight lows in the 20s. Now I want to reveal the nice surprise is the 10-day forecast. We start to return to average. I know you think about November, that seems like it's mild, but in all honesty, that's where we should be this time of year, is in the 50s to lower 60s, and we even have a shot of rain next Wednesday. So we will, after this cold snap, start to return to normal on temperatures as we head into the next week and to Thanksgiving week. It's hard to, gosh, it really is next week. It's hard to believe it's already here. I feel like it's still another couple of weeks out, but it's already here.
My kids didn't believe it too. I told them they had one more full week of school and then they were off, and they're like, no, we've got more before that.
Well, it's because
you keep believing that.
We have that unique situation too where we've still got a couple of weekdays of November left following Thanksgiving.
I know.
I think that's what's throwing me off.
It's fallen a little early this year.
It is.
Yep.
It is.
All right. Thanks, Chris. We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Sergeant First Class Matthew Todd in the U.S. Army. The Iola, Kansas native joined the 1st Armored Division with the Cavalry Unit in 2006. He earned the Army Achievement Medal, the NATO Medal, and a number of other honors. To Sergeant Matthew Todd, we thank you, our four-state hero. If you're like me, by the time you get to Thanksgiving dessert, you're already stuffed from the dinner. So today's bite-sized recipe is perfect. Howard shows us how to make ooey gooey pecan squares in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
With Thanksgiving right around the corner, now's the time to start thinking about what desserts you're going to serve. And if your house is anything like mine, by the time dessert rolls around, everyone's stuffed. But that doesn't stop us from asking for a small piece of this, and a sliver of that. Well, that was the inspiration for the bite-sized ooey gooey pecan squares that we're whipping up today. We begin by combining some flour, sugar, and butter until it forms a coarse crumb mixture. Then we press this into the bottom of a baking dish and pop it in the oven. While it's baking, we mix together some brown sugar and flour, along with a good amount of corn syrup, a few eggs, a bit of vanilla, and a little salt. Then we add lots of coarsely chopped pecans and pour it into our baked crust. Back into the oven it goes, just long enough to set up. Once it cools, we cut it into squares and it's ready to serve along all of our other must-have holiday favorites. The nice thing about these is you get all the yumminess of a pecan pie, yet it's easier to make and serve. The recipe for these ooey gooey pecan squares is online now. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a perfectly portioned way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Save one for me. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
We've got a wintry mix possible as we head into the afternoon and evening hours across the area. Only a dusting of snow expected. High of 44, 42 tomorrow. We stay below normal for the rest of the week, and then another wintry mix possible Saturday. Lows in the 20s.
Cold.
That it is.
Cold
Yes,
indeed.
it's very cold.
That's an extra blanket on the bed, an extra log in the fireplace cold.
What do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, researchers are studying what activities might be better for our brains. A new study looks at video games versus crossword puzzles. Find out which scored the highest in Health Watch. Plus, cold temperatures do continue this week. We're going to hear from our pet expert, Eva Dudek, about low temperatures and how they affect different dog breeds. And it's peak deer hunting season and peak season to see deer along the roads. Local auto body shops are seeing an increase in the number of vehicles needing repairs after run-ins with deer. I just saw a couple of deer alongside the road as I was driving into work today. Those stories, a lot more coming up. KOAM News at 5.
And stay warm, that's for sure. All right, thanks, Dal. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.